Hey guys, so today's video is part 2 of my wedding and engagement series. So let's get right into it because I have a lot of stuff to cover. We wanted to get married outside and we had been looking at venues around where we lived in Southern California, and everything was really expensive. And a lot of times when you worked with a certain venue, you would have to use their catering and use their this and their that, and everything was more and more money, and it was really expensive, and we were on a major budget for this wedding. So it took a while for us to actually find our wedding venue because it's in a city that we had never heard of, in a place that we'd never been before. But I'm really glad that we found it because now it's one of our favorite places and we go back there pretty often. We got married in a city called Idlewild, and it's a city in the mountains above Palm Springs in California. It's a really cool area, and we like it because it's known as an artist town, and it's cool because we're both artists, and we really fell in love with it the first time that we visited it. Our venue was the Quiet Creek Inn, and if any of you guys are in Idlewild, I highly recommend you guys checking it out because it's just so quaint and it's beautiful, and it has these humongous tall trees and even a creek running right behind it. So we got married right in front of this creek, and the kind of area around it is a natural amphitheater, so there's a little bit of a slope. I was a little bit concerned about that at first, but we decided to make it really casual and laid back to have a standing ceremony. So our ceremony was like 7 minutes long. I remember after Nick's dad actually officiated the ceremony, so after Mike said, you know, like it went by so quickly, and I remember after he was done just thinking, oh my gosh, that was so fast. But we wanted to make sure that it was really personal, but more importantly, really quick, because our guests were all going to be standing. So our ceremony, like I said, was on this little natural hill right in front of this creek, and it was just so peaceful and beautiful. I wanted to make sure that our decor was simple because we were going to have to bring everything that we used up there on our own. It was a BYO everything wedding, including, oh, I'll get into that in a little bit. So for our ceremony, the only decor we had was this beautiful kiln rug. I talked about this in previous videos because we still have it, and it's so special that we have this piece of decor from our wedding that we'll have forever. We stood on it to get married, and then to mark the aisle, I had little jars full of just little river rocks, and we tied a little ribbon around the top of them, and it was just simple so that people knew not to stand there. So going back to bring your own everything style wedding, we really did put everything together ourselves. The trip up the mountain itself was about 45 minutes, so it was really hard for us to find vendors that were willing to make the trek up the mountain. We ended up finding a really good table rental place that we rented the tables and the dance floor and just simple white tablecloths from. But the thing that we really had trouble with was finding a food vendor. So we looked around and called around, and we finally found this amazing taco company that made street tacos for a wedding. So again, really casual and maybe not everyone's taste, but everyone that we talked to was stoked about it and really liked it, and it was really good food. So yeah, that was really fun, and I'm super happy that we found that company. So our venue was really rustic because it was outside and there were these huge trees, and there was even a barn on the property. So I wanted to kind of make the decor a little bit more modern. I didn't want it to go super rustic or super anything. I wanted to kind of be a mix. So we had the white tablecloths with the black and white striped table runners, and then these big slabs of wood. And I'm going to link a video to the grapefruit tree table. I made a video about that a while ago and talked about how we used the grapefruit tree from a family member's backyard for centerpieces, and now we made tables out of them too. So yes, we did that. Nick and his dad sanded all these huge slabs of wood down and put a clear coat on them and just did an awesome job. So we had those for the table centerpieces, and then for the actual centerpiece on top of all of that, I put them all together again with my sisters and family, and I wanted something really simple. Since we were going to be driving up to the location the day before the wedding, I didn't want to have to be fussing with flowers because again, we're doing all this ourselves. I knew that I would get stressed out if I had to worry about 8 or 10 table centerpieces dying and then being stuck on this mountain with nothing to fix them with. So I decided it would be a good idea to have potted centerpieces. That way, technically, hopefully, they wouldn't die, and they didn't. So I just scoured thrift stores for vintage milk glass and white containers with some brass accents, and we just potted all these succulents a month before, put some stones on the top of them, and they looked really cool. And I love that we were able to keep them even after the wedding and give some away to people, and it was just a really, really cool kind of modern touch to this really rustic area. For our paper stuff, again, we made all that ourselves as well. At the time, I was working at a paper store called Paper Source, so I was able to get all of our paper goods at a really great discount, and then we designed everything ourselves. So honestly, I was really inspired by kind of the style of Disney's California Adventure. It had just opened kind of when we were getting engaged and trying to figure out like the style of our wedding, and I just really liked kind of like the simple, bold style of like old like newspapers and posters and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we went with. Really simple black and white stuff with some vintage accents. So for our wedding invitation, Nick and I designed it, and then a friend of mine that did letterpressed them for us. And I love how they looked. They were long and just simple black and white, again really casual. We just used our first names and didn't have any fancy wording or anything on them. And then for the second info card and the RSVP, we found some vintage postcards that we scanned and then put our own information on the back to kind of go with the rustic meets modern style. So the one thing that I did work on the day before the wedding was putting our bouquets together. So that was the one project that I knew that I would do that was kind of a perishable item, but I thought that it was, you know, easy enough, and it was easy enough to do, and I wasn't stressed about it at all. So I ended up buying a bunch of peonies from Trader Joe's of all places. I bought just a ton of them, and I cleaned all the flowers, so I took off all the leaves and cut them to the right size and kind of put them in arrangements and stuck them in the fridge so that they would last. And then that Friday before the wedding is when I really went and made sure that none of the flowers were dying in the bouquets. I added extra flowers if any of the bouquets needed them, and then I just took ribbon. Well, I took floral tape first and wrapped it around the bottom of the bouquet, and then I just took ribbon and wrapped it around and called it done. It was super easy, super inexpensive, and they turned out really, really beautifully. And then for the boutonnieres for Nick and for the guys in the wedding, I made them out of Pez heads. So again, I didn't want something perishable because I didn't want to have to be worrying about that the day of. And Nick's an animator, and he's into kind of the more quirky things in life, and so I wanted to incorporate that into our wedding. So I had been looking for a dress. It took me so long to find a dress. I think I found it like a month or two before the wedding, which is kind of cutting it close, I feel like. But I had been looking for a vintage dress because, again, I love antiques and vintage things, and I was determined to find a vintage dress. And I looked everywhere, and I tried on tons and tons of dresses, and none of them felt right. I even ordered 2 vintage dresses online and ended up reselling them because I would get them and be like, okay, I'm gonna tailor this and I'm gonna trim this and it's gonna be like this, and it just didn't end up working. So one day I was at the mall of all places with my sister-in-law, and we were at Free People, and I saw this dress behind the cash wrap, and it was so beautiful. It was lace on top and it had a tulle bottom, and I asked one of the girls working there if it was on hold for someone, and she said that someone had returned it. It was an online only exclusive with someone designer working with Free People, I don't even remember, but it was the only one they had. So I was just like, okay, well, I need to try this on, it's so beautiful. So I ended up trying it on, and it was too big for me, but I knew as soon as I tried it on that this was my dress. I needed to have it hemmed because, or I needed to have it altered because I wanted it to be fitted at my waist and then go out kind of at my hips down. Because the dress itself was kind of like a drop-waisted, more 20s style silhouette, and I wasn't down for that. It's so funny to me because if we hadn't gone there at that time, I would have never seen it, and then who knows what would have happened with my dress. For my accessories, I wore my grandma's gold bangle, and on my bouquet, I had a little locket, again, that was my grandma's, and it had a picture of my mom in it. So my mom passed away about 6 years ago, and I really wanted to do something at the wedding that would honor her, but I didn't necessarily want it to be like super out there, you know, I just wanted it to be for me. So having that locket tied onto my bouquet was something really special to me that only I knew about, to kind of bring my mom into that ceremony. So I like to think that I did a pretty good job, obviously with the help of all my friends and family, about organizing the wedding and making sure that we had everything. The one thing that I forgot, which is really important, was a plate for our cake cutting and a knife and server for our cake cutting. I don't know how I forgot about this. It's such a traditional, normal thing to have at a wedding, but we ended up just getting a little tiny cake for us to cut, and then for our guests we had these little tiny cake truffles so that we wouldn't have to have anyone serve dessert to people. They could just kind of come up, and we had little yellow bags, and they can just pick their dessert and put them in there and then go eat at the table or take them home with them. So I guess I just was thinking more about the guests because they had all their stuff, but we didn't have a plate. And so when it was time for us to cut our cake, I was like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna put our cake on? And I had a little wooden plate, but it was from Goodwill and I hadn't washed it yet, but it was crunch time. So we borrowed a knife from the people that owned the inn, and it was this huge knife. It's so funny to see it in pictures because it's not elegant at all, but it's what happened. And then I was trying to tell Nick in front of all of our guests, the plate's not clean, eat the top of the cake, whatever. And it was just a really funny moment because I didn't want everyone to hear that, but I was also trying to protect him from these thrift store germs. So yeah, it's really funny to watch that video back because we're kind of just a little bit not knowing what to do, but yeah. We had a swing band at our wedding, and so it was so fun to dance on the dance floor to that music. They played a lot of classic songs, but then they also played the Cantina song from Star Wars and the Muppet song. So it was a really fun mix of kind of the old and the new, and yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. One of my favorite memories was Nick and I and our cousin were kind of dancing in a circle, and then my bridesmaids and Nick's mom and some of our other friends were spinning this way, so we were in a circle, going in a circle, and it was so fun. And that's one of my favorite pictures from our wedding, is us all dancing together on the dance floor. So I hope you guys enjoyed this look into our wedding, and I hope this video wasn't too long. We'll have to see when I edit it. But yeah, I'm just super thankful for all of our friends and family because honestly, we would have not been able to do this without them. Just with their support, helping us get everything together, making things together. It was just a lot of fun, and I'm really happy to be able to share it with you guys. Be sure to like this video if you liked it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Hey.
Hey.
How was it?
It was good.
Woo! It was fun. A lot of fun. So I guess, I don't know what to say something to the people that'll be watching it and the people that came.
Our grandchildren or our
no,
children?
no.
Oh.
The people.
Thank you everyone for coming. We had so much fun, and it means so much to us that everyone made the drive up here for us to celebrate our wedding with us, so thank you.
Ditto. Woo!